Woo-hoo. Who likes adventure? I think we all do. I really do. I think we all like adventure. When I was growing up as a kid, I just loved horses, still love horses, my favorite animal. And when I got my first horse, I thought the most exciting adventure possible was just charging my horse at a dead gallop down the irrigation ditch behind our house, just flat out hauling. And that is an adventure. That was exciting. But then when I turned 17, I saved up enough money to get my first motorcycle. And here's a picture of what a Yamaha 360 Enduro looks like. Looks a little wimpy next to these bikes, but hey, I had a lot of fun on the road and off the road. And all of a sudden I found out this is a whole new thrill, because this thing has a burst of energy that is even faster than my horse. It's like riding 100 wild horses when you really turn loose this thing. And maybe that's why they call it horsepower, I guess. But I just love the speed, I love the thrill, I love adventure. I think we all love adventure because I think that's how God wired us. And so my message today, as we close out this series on authentic community, is entitled Made for Adventure Together. And I got 3 points in this message, and they are made for adventure together, okay? Here we go. So first of all, we're made. Would you agree with me? We're not a product of chance. We're not just some random mutations that somehow accidentally happen. There is a God who is an intelligent designer who created this beautiful planet and everything on it, and he created, as the crowning act of all of his creation, humans in his own image. What a privilege that we can be called the children of God, and we can be in communication with him, and we can be in communication with each other in ways that the rest of the animal kingdom cannot do. They can communicate, but not sophisticated like us, which enables us to really grow closer to the Lord through communication and to each other, to develop a deep level of community. We were made by a creator God who wanted the best for us, and when he finished creating Adam and Eve, he said, after each day, he said, it's good, it's good, it's good. But when he created humans, he said, it's very good. It's very good. Of course, most of us have read far enough in the Bible to get to Genesis chapter 3. And there's where the problem enters because of rebellion, because of sin. And as a result, a curse comes on to the planet and the people. Sin brought this curse. And the planet now is marred. Still beautiful, still God's handiwork, but it's been marred by sin. But God didn't give up. He didn't say, okay, forget this place. I'm going to try it over. I'm going to start over. I'm going to blow that up and start over. No. Even in chapter 3, when he talks about the curse, he also talks about the one, the Redeemer one, who would eventually come, who would absorb the curse, who would reverse the curse, and who would offer us forgiveness, eternal life, through the finished perfect work of Jesus and his atonement on the cross. And that's the heart of the gospel. That's the main thing. That's what we're about. And that's what we celebrate every week because it's real. It's not just church talk. It means that when you accept Jesus, when you take the gift of grace by faith, when you decide to leave your self-centered life and follow Jesus, everything changes. And now you have a different purpose and meaning and fulfillment in this life right here. But more than that, you have the guarantee and the security of eternal life to come. Now, a lot of people don't want to really think about that. They say, okay, I don't want to be lost, so I better be sure that I don't go that direction. But, I'm not really too excited about what is going to happen in eternity. I want to just get a bucket list and fill it full here because this is where the fun is. It seems like it's more real here than on the other side. Seems like it's kind of boring the way people talk about heaven. And back on Easter, I showed you this Far Side comic strip, and this dude sitting on a cloud with his little halo, must have dropped his harp, and he says, wish I'd brought a magazine. Now that's what a lot of people think heaven and eternity is about. Does anybody get excited about that? Anybody excited about that? Not one person. Why is that? It's because that's not what God created you for. That's not what he designed you for. That's not what he wired you for. He wired you to be a real person in a resurrected body with the resurrected Christ on a resurrected planet. And so that's what we look forward to, and that's what we get excited about. And unfortunately, the enemy has kind of created another false idea of what eternity is, and so that people won't get excited about what God has in store for us. Jesus said, the meek will inherit the earth. In fact, let's put this statement up here on the screen, and I'd like to, if you believe what I just said, I'd like to ask you to read this with me out loud in one voice and believe it even more, okay? God designed me for resurrected life in a resurrected body with the resurrected Christ on a resurrected earth. If you believe that, that is good news. Now, when Jesus came out of the tomb, he could have come out of the tomb as a ghost and said, this is what you can look forward to forever and ever and ever. You're going to be a ghost. And at first, when the disciples saw him alive, they thought maybe that was the case. They were terrified. And he said, hey, come over here and touch me. He said, before we eat together, I want you to see that ghosts don't have flesh and bones as I do. And then we're told that our bodies in the resurrection will be like his glorious body. And so we're not going to be just floating around forever. And God's not going to blow up this earth. He's going to renew it. He's going to restore all things. And we've had some fun with that earlier this year talking about that, but that's a really good starting point for this talk today about adventure together. I'd like for you to look again at Acts chapter 3, verses 20 to 21. It says, God will again send you Jesus, your appointed Messiah, for he must remain in heaven until the time for blowing up the earth. Is that what it says? No. For the time for the final restoration of all things, as God promised long ago through his holy prophets. He's not going to blow up the earth. He's going to restore it. This and other verses say. He's going to create a new heaven, a new earth. He's going to merge heaven and earth. The last two chapters of the Bible tell us. We're going to be real people doing real things in a real world. Matter matters. And bodies matter. And this world matters to God. And so we're going to be real people doing real things in a real world, which includes adventure. That's right. Point 2. God made you for adventure. What is adventure? Well, I like this dictionary definition. It says, an unusual and exciting, typically hazardous experience or activity. Sign me up for that. A while back, I watched this HBO series. I don't have it, but I ordered the DVDs when I heard about it. And it was called, here's a picture, it's called Long Way Round. And you might recognize the actor Ewan McGregor on the right. His buddy Charlie Borman's a good motorcyclist. He's done a lot of racing. And these guys, they documented this trip from London through Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, one of those stands, and Russia, and into Canada, and down to New York, and shipped their bikes home. It was an amazing adventure. All kinds of stuff happened along the way. And then later they did Long Way Down from North Scotland to South Africa, and right now they're working on, 10 years later, they're working on the Long Way Up from South America coming north. And watching that, it was such a fun adventure, but I got introduced to the whole idea of adventure bikes. They're a special kind of motorcycle. I don't know if you noticed any as you came in today, but you had to pass 3 to get in here, and then, the stage just looked different during worship today, and at first I couldn't figure out why it looked so much better than normal, but then I realized that's why. That's an adventure bike. And so I got introduced to these, and I'm thinking, wow, here's a bike that's interesting. You can go all the way around the world on this. Dirt, pavement, it's designed to go anywhere. So a couple years ago, Pastor Hollis and I went down to Ecuador, and we were on a mission to dedicate the church and child development center that you all funded and that we built down there. It's called Grace Place. It's in the highlands of Ecuador. And I'm so proud of this congregation now having sponsored over 500 kids in that community, which is amazing. So we went down there, amen. We went down there to dedicate that, and we decided we were going to rent some B&W adventure bikes to get there and take kind of the long way through the mountains and kind of the rough way. Guy, programmed our GPS for us so that we would go through some dirt and some high country, and ended up being quite an adventure because some of the bridges were out and had to go through water and mud and all kinds of stuff. Got a couple pictures here. This is the bike I was riding. That's the tallest mountain in Ecuador. It's 21,000 something, and we're sitting at 14,000 right there. Give you some perspective. And the next picture here, these little ladies wanted to charge toll. I don't think they were authorized to do that, but they had a little chain there. I think it cost us $1 to get through there, and Hollis is convinced they were trying to get him connected with the girl over here with the blue hat. Is that the one they were trying to get you romantically interested in there? So it was an unbelievable adventure. Next picture, we're showing up at the church. The church is on the right, the Child Development Center on the left, the restrooms in the middle that, by the way, now have an apartment for the pastor on top, thanks to the generosity of individuals at Grace Place. So that was just unbelievable. So after we got done with that, we came back, and Hollis was the first one, and then I was the copier, Cat, and we ended up purchasing these motorcycles. This is Hollis's, and this is mine. These are BMW F800 GSA. You know what the A stands for? Adventure. Good thinking there. They make a GS that's not an A. But when you get the A, that's adventure. That means you get the big, this one has actually the tank is back here, under here, and it's like 6.5 gallons, so you can go a long ways. And, an adventure bike, this one came with these crash bars down here. I ended up putting some extra ones up here, and I've needed them more than once. And you have to do a few things after you get these to make them ready for serious adventure. I got protection here from getting my lights broken by somebody popping up rocks. The most important add-on that I did, they had this cheap little plastic skid plate on here. And I got this big, heavy-duty Black Dog one down here that is invaluable. I've been high-centered on that a couple times, and somebody had to help push me off. I've heard lots of boom, boom, boom as I hit rocks, and it helps you out with protecting your engine there. Also, these bark busters, they're steel, and they can keep you from breaking your you don't want to break your clutch out in the middle of nowhere because you're stranded. And so that's what these are about. And then, you gotta haul some gear. So I got my tank bag right here, which is really nice to put stuff you need in a hurry, like sunglasses and chapstick and flashlights and pistol, whatever you want to put in there. And then back here I got my bags, soft bags. We intentionally did not clean the bikes up, by the way. We just drove right off the adventure and said, let's take them to church, as you can see. You can also put hard bags like that beautiful GS 1200 GSA right back there belonging to Mr. Ike John Nason. And it's got some really nice hard bags. And the nice thing about that is you can lock them. You can have them keyed to your key, and you can lock them. They're a little safer. You can take them off and use them as a chair when you get to your campsite if you camp. But one nice thing about these soft bags is if you fall over and it falls on your leg, it's not as likely to break your leg, which has happened to certain people over time with the hard ones. That's why I got these. And then right here is all my camping gear. So I've got it all organized so I can just take that off when I'm ready to camp and be ready to go. Add some weight to this thing. It's like a 500-pound bike. That one's about 100 pounds more, I think, back there. But then when I get all this on and get me on, I don't know, it's probably 800 pounds. And so, and you got the knobby tires too. So these are designed so, they can go down the highway at 80 miles an hour all day and be comfortable. They're designed for going around the world. But you can get off on some pretty gnarly Jeep trails because you've got knobbies and you can get going. And we got these little Sena connections on our helmet where, turn it that way, I guess, where you can listen to music through Bluetooth, but more importantly, you can talk to each other. So a lot of times we were wired and we could be talking to each other especially when we get into the tough stuff and we want to be able to get some coaching from the guy that's up front. Hey, watch out, big ruts, stay to the left, tons of loose rock on the right, etc., etc. Then we learned about the Backcountry Discovery Route. This is a nonprofit organization that is trying to design an off-road adventure across every state in America. Of course, they started in the West. They've only got one in the East. They've got most of the West done, not all of it. And the third hardest is Colorado, but the most beautiful, arguably. I got a sticker right here that says BDR Colorado, Backcountry Discovery Route. You're supposed to put that on after you write it, but I put it on by faith before I wrote it. But now I earned it. And here's the map. It's very detailed and very helpful. Of course, you can also, download this all digitally and put it into your GPS unit, as we did. But it starts down in the corner, down here at Four Corners, which is, Mexico and Utah and Arizona and Colorado. And then the first day, we rode up to Cortez on pavement, and then we got on all these little Jeep dirt roads that were amazing, beautiful, some passes, and we came to Telluride. The second day, it goes from Telluride to Lake City, and it says on the map it's only 65 miles. It took us about 10 hours. It is brutal. There's 6 Jeep passes. Have you ever been down there around Ouray and Silverton? You gone Jeeping down there? You been there? Some of you been Jeeping? Oh my goodness. It's easier on 4 wheels. Trust me. There's 6 passes over 12,000 feet, I think, that we went on that day, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. And then the next day it goes from here to Buena Vista, beautiful backcountry roads, river crossings, sand. Riding in sand is fun. It's a challenge, actually. Your bike, it feels like you're swimming. And then from Buena Vista over Weston Pass into Leadville for lunch, and then over Hagerman Pass and some other pass I can't remember the name of, but Hagerman was a challenge. And then we got to Gypsum up here on Highway 70, and then the next day was the Steamboat. Once you get in northern Colorado, there's not as much forest access, and so it's just winding through beautiful ranches and through mostly just gravel roads. And then we made it up to Wyoming. A few of us went over to the Snowy Range and camped before coming back. 8 days, 1,600 miles of adventure. How many of you know that we live in an absolutely beautiful state? You know that? What a privilege. Here's an example of it right here. Just one tiny example. I don't know what it does for you, but getting out into that kind of beauty of God's creation is so renewing and inspiring. It just prompts me to prayer. I mean, every single day I think I said, "Thank you, Jesus," probably 20 times. Maybe a few of those times were because I got through some sketchy terrain. But often it was just a prompting to prayer. It's just somebody told me that a motorcycle helmet is the smallest sanctuary on earth, and it's just so uplifting, so beautiful. I love adventure. We were made for adventure, I believe. Here's an example of that. Ernest Shackleton. Are you familiar with his story? Back in 1914. If you're not and you like adventure, true adventure, read the book Endurance. You won't be able to put it down. It's unbelievable. But he advertised in England that he was going to create a team to sail down and explore the Antarctica. It had never been crossed. And he was brutally honest in his advertisement. Let me read it to you. I wrote it down here. Men wanted for hazardous journey, low wages, bitter cold, long hours of complete darkness, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in event of success. Now you'd think nobody'd sign up for that. One account says 5,000 applications came in. So now he's got all these applications. And so he sifted them into 3 piles. And he labeled the piles: mad, hopeless, and possible. And out of the possible pile, he finally selected 27 strong member crew. And wow, did they ever have an adventure. And they all survived because they worked together. Adventure is better together. You see, God made us for adventure. You say, well, really? I don't like motorcycles and I don't want to learn to like them. That's okay. What do you like? I bet you there's something you like that's an adventure. You live in a state where you can go biking and hiking and skiing and climbing, where you can go camping and fishing and hunting and rafting, and the list goes on, jeeping. And the other people was like, that's not me. I like traveling. I like photography. I like food. I like wine. I mean, there's so many different ways to experience adventure. It's possible somebody's sitting there saying, you know what? I don't like any of that stuff. I just like to stay home. And I like to read good books, and I like to watch good movies. We'll think about it. What is the content of those good books and those movies? Adventure. Even chick flicks sometimes have adventure in them. I know, I'm an expert on them. But hey, God wired us that way, and that's just how it is. And when you open this book and start reading it, this is the greatest story of all. And it is full of adventure. It starts at the very beginning when God grants humans the privilege and responsibility of being caretakers of all that he's made. And he said, what does that mean? You're going to name them. You're going to tame them. You're going to ride them. This is adventure starting in page 1. And then after sin enters, now there's a new element. There's this raging battle between good and evil. And because of that, all kinds of adventure comes out of that. I mean, I could give you dozens of examples. Here's just a few. The Israelites are miraculously delivered from captivity by God, and the first thing they do is they get a march through the Red Sea that opens miraculously. Talk about adventure. Then they get to Jericho, and God tells them, walk around there for 7 days. Watch what I'm going to do. There's some anticipation, some adventure. And then after they conquer Jericho, Caleb. Most of the Israelites died off during their 40 years of wandering in the wilderness because of their lack of faith. 2 of them went into the promised land because they had believed that God would be with them. Joshua, who now takes leadership as Moses has died, and Caleb, his buddy. Caleb, in fact, if you want to read about this, you can do so in Joshua 14. It says, Caleb was 85 years old. And he says, hey, I know I'm 85 years old, but I'm still vigorous. That's what he said. He said, and God's with me. And so I'm going to go take on the fortified cities in the mountains. And he does. And God's with him. Then you get to Judges, and there's a story about Gideon. He's just a farmer. He doesn't know anything about warfare. And God shows up through an angel and says, Gideon, mighty warrior, I'm going to use you. Judges 6, 7, and 8. And he's like, not me. I'm the weakest of the weak. And he said, hey, if God's with you, you're not. And so there's 135,000 Midianites marching against the people of God, and they're going to wipe them out. And so Gideon says, hey, we need some warriors, and 32,000 people show up. So we got 32,000 to 135,000. Not the greatest odds, but we'll see. And God says, no, I want to get all the glory. So he goes through a process of whittling that number down to 300. He said, now we're ready. 300 against 135,000. I did the odds. That's 450 to 1 chance of survival. God likes those kind of odds because he gets all the credit. 1 with God is a majority. Would you agree? So this is full of adventure. Like there's this guy, Jonathan, who is the son of the first king of Israel, Saul. And he gets tired of God's enemies making mockery of the people of God and the army being slow to do something. You can read about it in 1 Samuel 14. He says to his armor bearer, hey, let's just you and me go up there and take on that whole city. Let's climb the wall. Let's scale the cliff and climb the wall and see what God will do, because God is not limited by numbers. If he wants this to get done, he'll get it done. And sure enough, they got it done. Talk about adventure. You can read in 2 Samuel chapter 23 about David when he was hiding from King Saul in the caves. And he got he got a little army together with him of mighty men who were committed to him and loyal. They were a team. And one day he's reminiscing, he's thirsty. He says, boy, I just wish I could drink from that well back in Bethlehem, my hometown. And 3 of those guys at great risk go break through the enemy line to bring him water from that well. And he's so overwhelmed and he's so blessed by their love and their courage that he can't even drink it. He pours it out as an offering to God, and he's grateful to his men. You keep reading that chapter. There's one guy that took on 300 guys with a sword or with a spear and won. There's another guy who, this is in the Bible, it says he killed a lion in a pit on a snowy day. Do you know that's in the Bible? I'm like, well, I want to hear the whole story on that. That sounds like an adventure. Okay, that's all the Old Testament. You get to the New Testament, there's more adventure. Jesus didn't say, hey, I just want you to believe in me and everything's okay and just, don't worry about what you do, just believe. No, he said, follow. Come, follow me. Be willing to give up your home, your security, take up a cross, give up your life as necessary. Be willing to go all in That's adventure. And if you don't think so, read the book of Acts. Because here you see them going on this mission for Jesus all around the world. And Acts is just a little sampling of what actually happened. We don't have all the stories of them going to India and to Africa and all these different places where those early disciples went. We have a little snapshot there in the Roman Empire of what happened. But it was amazing. Here's one example. The Apostle Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 11:24 through 27, he says, 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea, and I've been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles. Danger is a theme here, notice. In danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, in danger from false believers. I've labored and toiled and have gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. But he was on an adventure for God because he knew there was nothing more important than the gospel and getting that gospel out to as many as possible as long as he had a breath. You see, following Jesus is the greatest adventure of all times. If you're all in, if you're really following him, and it's not just a head thing, it's a heart thing, it's a life thing. You accept the gospel of grace and your life is transformed, and now it gives you meaning and purpose for this life. And it prepares you for the next life, which is not less real, it's more real. Jesus said when he returns, his second coming, he said in Matthew 19:28, it will be the renewal of all things. Everything you love here is going to be better there. And that's why you don't need a bucket list. You can have some short-term goals, but you don't need a bucket list of what you got to get done before you kick the bucket, because here's where all the fun is. No, eternity is better than you think. And if you don't believe that, read the last 2 chapters of the Bible where it says God's going to merge heaven and earth, and he's going to live here with his people forever on this earth made new. God made you for adventure together. And as we're in this series, and we're wrapping up this series about discovering authentic community and how we can lean into that, especially in the context of the church, I want you to think about this especially. Together. Everything changes when you do it together. You know, when I first started riding a street bike on the road, one of the biggest surprises I had is how everybody on motorcycles feel like they're a community. I mean, dude might not say anything to you if you walked by him, but if you ride by him, he's going to wave at you. Anybody seen that happen? Bikes all wave at each other? Here's some examples. Everybody has different waves. You got the outside wave, the down low wave. Next picture, the way down low wave. Do we got any more waves here? No, not that one. I've never seen that one for you. You didn't see that either. That's fortunately, but there's a lot of different ways. It's like this community of wavers. Now, what I've come to understand about adventure and about life is that, and I'm going to illustrate this with this motorcycle trip, that there are many things that are better when we do them in community. Here's 3 examples. Life is more fun, it's more productive, and it's safer when you do it together with others. And this applies to all of our life. We're so tempted to be individualized and isolated and privatized and hide in our house and not really press in to community. But when we do, life is better. First of all, it's more fun. And I'm going to talk about motorcycles here for a minute as an illustration. You know, motorcycle riding can be a very solitary thing because you're in your helmet and you're not talking while you're riding unless you're hooked up with the Sena apparatus like we had the privilege of doing. But when you stop, you share stories. And like, did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that bear? We saw a bear. A couple of us did. And did you see, you know, how I negotiated that one little stretch? And you start talking, and it's more fun together than by yourself. We had 5 on this trip, and here's a picture of the 4 that started at the 4 corners. Pastor Hollis on the left, Ike John Nissen and Coulter Davidson, and myself. The next day, we picked up a 5th rider, Jim Nordhagen, there on that beautiful Africa Twin, and that made 5 of us. So we're riding together, and we get up on one of the hardest passes, Ophir Pass, and we run into this guy in a yellow jumpsuit. with a strong South African accent. His name's Andy. And he's really cool. He's a good rider. He's interested in what we're doing. And he actually helped me lift my bike up when somebody stopped in front of me and I fell over. And I thought, man, this guy's a nice guy. So he I won't say who. And so that's the kind of conversations we have after we take breaks. So this Andy dude, he's saying, what are you guys doing? And so he said, I am so jealous of you guys because you have mates. I can't say it with the right accent, but he said, you have mates. I don't. I ride by myself all the time. I moved to Durango, and I love this train, and I ride, but I don't have a group like you. You could tell he was jealous. And so he said, hey, could I hang out with you guys for a while? We said, sure, come along, come with us. So he changed his plans so that he could move into a little slice of community and get a little feel of what it could be like. And here's one of the top of the passes, and you'll see him in a yellow jumpsuit.
Pass.
All right, hey guys, who's going to get one of everybody here?
Get a little video here of Ike and Coulter, Jim and Hollis, and our new buddy from South Africa.
There he is. It's life is like motorcycle riding. It's more fun when you do it together. Furthermore, it is more productive. You see, I mentioned this pass called Ophir Pass, and this is the first pass we hit on the hardest day coming out of Telluride, just south of there. And here's a picture of it. That picture does not do it justice, trust me, because the drop-off goes down for 1,000 feet on this side. And it looks really gentle there until you get on that road. Now, back there where you see all of that dirt, all those rocks coming down in the middle there was a landslide there, a rock slide, a year and a half or so ago. And it covered up the trail with tons of rock. Well, they've tried to get it functional again, but it still has about 18 inches for about 50 yards or so of just big, deep rock. And you can make your way through there on 4 wheels, but it's very difficult on 2 wheels, especially with these big, heavy bikes, especially going uphill, which we were. There's just a little perspective of these rocks. So the first 2 guys that went in there, Ike John used to be a professional desert racer. He's an unbelievable rider. He got stuck. Pastor Hollis, he's fearless. He'll jump into anything. And so a lot of times we say, let Hollis try it, and we'll just see we'll see if it works. If it does, we'll follow his route. If not, we know where not to go. So he goes in and he gets stuck. So pretty soon we figured out the only way to get these heavy bikes uphill through this is to push them. And so it took at least 3 guys on each bike, one on the throttle and one on, working the clutch, and 2 keeping it from falling over and pushing, and you're trying to make your way through. Here we are, Coulter and I getting ready to push Jim through, and some Jeepers are standing around watching us because they pulled over so we could get by them, and they were kind of just interested to see, these guys can't do this. So it was much more productive to have a team to get through. We would have had to turn around and go do something else probably if it wasn't for the help of our friends to push through there. Furthermore, doing it together as a team, doing life together as a team is safer. You got people that can help you when you're down, people that can be your accountability partners, people who can be your encouragers, and so on. Here's a picture of the posture you don't want to be in, right, Jim? Look at the size of those rocks, but sometimes this happens. I got another picture here of me, and it looks like I'm conquering the bike, but because I'm in that position, it means the bike just conquered me. And so this is not the position you want to be in. I got some cracked ribs. Let's go back to live for a second. Here's how you know you've been on an adventure when you got a bruise like this, and you don't even know how you got it. I got them all over. So when you do get in that posture of falling down, that's when it's so helpful to have somebody else help you up. Now, it is possible to, if you're stranded, to sometimes get these things up by yourself. You lean them backwards, and sometimes people have to unload them to get them up. But if you got a buddy who can jump off and help you to get it back up, it's so much easier. And that's why it's safer together. I was on one of those passes after Ophir Pass. I don't remember which one it was, but it was rocky and it was steep and there's loose rocks and there's all kinds of obstacles. And I'm going up and I'm almost to the top and I come around this corner and I look at it and I, oh my goodness. It was about from here to the ceiling, the last stretch, and it was super steep. And there was no loose rock, which was good, but it was steep. And I thought, man, I don't know if I'm going fast enough to make it up there. I'm in first gear, so I gave it all I had, and I got about 20 feet up, and it started to cough like it was gonna die because I just didn't have enough momentum. I was so irritated at myself. So I thought, in a moment, the only way I can get up this is to feather the clutch and get those RPMs up, and then this thing's powerful, I'll get up. Well, I pulled the clutch in a little bit, but I still had my throttle all the way on, and so it was like, nee! And then I let the clutch out too fast, and it spun the back wheel, and it just, boom, went down, just like that. So I think Coulter was behind me and came up to help me pick it up, and then it's so steep that it wants to slide back even when you got both brakes on. So together we walked it back to a place where I could get a run at it. Well, as soon as we picked it up, we realized, we got a problem. Here's a picture of what it looked like. That's oil that's leaking out of my bike. And I'm like, it fell right on that rock. It crushed this right here, this little bar, into the bottom of my case, and it was leaking oil. And I thought, screwed. I'm done. I'm here. How am I going to get out of here? Good thing I brought camping stuff. I'm going to camp at 12,000 feet, and I'm going to have to bribe somebody with a truck and ramps, get this big heavy bike out. This sucks. Well, life is better together, just let me tell you. Because those two guys, Hollis and Coulter, I decided to rename them the MacGyver twins. Because not only can they fix anything, they think it's fun. They're like, this is a part of the adventure, man. He's like kids, like, we're going to fix this thing. So Hollis pulls out a BMW toolkit and starts working on getting things out of the way. And Coulter pulls out something I didn't even know existed. A little tube of, what do you call that, liquid steel? Quick steel. And they cleaned it up and they put that quick seal on there. He says, wait 5 minutes, see what happens. I've been riding this thing ever since. I'm going to have to replace that, but I haven't yet. And I got out of there because we worked together as a team. I could have never figured that out on my own. There was another time, might have been the next day, where Jim got a hole in his back tire. Flat. We're out in the middle of this country. We're out in the middle of nowhere. And we're like, oh, great. Now what do we do? Well, just so happens, Pastor Hollis pulls out a tube that's the right size. And then Ike John pulls out a big old kit with all these levers and stuff to try to take the tire off. And we're working on it. Man, these tires are huge. You can't get it off. And Coulter, I don't know if you watched a video or he just thought of it or what he did. He says, well, here's how you do it. So we drag it over to my bike and put the kickstand on the edge of the tire right by the rim. Boom, popped it right off. Twist, boom. Bike weight just really helped us out there. And so then they work and get the new tube in there. And we're like, how are we going to air this up? Details. There's some guys working on it. So Ike John pulls out this box about this big, and he says, you can buy one of these for $100 somewhere, but I got this for $19.95 at Harbor Freight. And it's a little pump that you plug into your cigarette lighter, right? So he plugs it into his bike, and he's over there drinking a Red Bull. I think it took about 20 minutes for that thing to probably pop and fill up. I think I got a video of that, actually. Life is better together, wouldn't you say? Jim, you and me'd be still out there. It wasn't for the rest of these guys. And listen, these lessons apply to every area of your life. That's how life is. It's more fun, it's more productive, it's safer when we do it together. We need each other. God designed us to do life together with others. At the very beginning of the story, he made Adam first. Before he made Eve, he said, it is not good for man to be alone. He wasn't saying everyone has to be married, but he was saying, I created you to be in community. This is my intention. You read the story of the new church in Acts 2. We were there 2 weeks ago. And over it says they were together. They were together. They were together. They were doing life together. They were meeting in large group, in small group settings. Don't be a lone ranger. Even the Lone Ranger had Tonto, right? That's not how God intended. Resist the temptation to isolate yourself. I was doing research earlier this year and found out stats on loneliness, that being chronically lonely, not only does it affect your emotional health, it affects your physical health to the same degree as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. You see, God created us in such a way that we need each other. And you can find community many places, different levels of community, a motorcycle club, any kind of club or sports team or whatever, but there's nowhere like the church. If you're looking for finding deep, lasting, fulfilling community, find a good, healthy church, and then make the effort to press in. Come regularly to worship. Get involved in serving. And check out a community group or sign up to host one. We're going to make it easy for you. Pastor Kelly's going to have a training for you. All you got to do is fill out that little card and take a risk and say, I'll consider it. I'll consider hosting a community group this fall because I believe that God wants me to do life with others and go deeper in my relationships with others and find the love and the encouragement that comes out of that. Hebrews 10:24 and 25 says, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. It says, meet together, press together, do life together. You will spur one another on towards love and good deeds, and you will encourage each other. I tell you, we all need encouragement. And that's what happens when you get the right people around you, and you trust them, and you do life together with them. I'm going to show you one more video because I just want you to hear the encouragement that's being sounded out in this video. This is very typical of the whole trip that we went on. And this is what everyone needs in their life. Watch this.
There he goes, there he
There
goes.
he goes, all right. Come on.
Come on, buddy.
Come on, Clay, you got this.
Papa.
Come on. Don't.
It's this spot.
Ain't, no. Go straight at it. Yeah, come on. You got it. Go straight at that big rock. Go. Go. All right. Woo!
Look at Professor Peck go.
All right.
Banging that skid plate.
Yeah. Woo!
He outcleaned all of us.
I made it. Huh?
Stop behind you.
Woo! All right.
It's Jim again.
Hey, everybody needs that kind of encouragement in their life, wouldn't you say? Yeah. Amen. Hey, would you stand with me? And I'd like to ask you to look up here at the screen, and we're going to read this verse one more time together. And I want this to be what you go home with when you think about community, authentic community. Can we put the Hebrews verse up there again? Hebrews 10. Maybe I'm going to read it to you one more time. Is it coming? All right, let's read it together. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching.